Hello, my name is Jan Schaefer from the Community Care Licensing Division at the California Department of Social Services. Welcome to the TrustLine web app training webinar. Entry of TrustLine applications is for subsidized child care programs for both the Department of Social Services and the programs that are under the Department of Education. I will first go over the options for the processing of these applications. The first screen is option 1. This process is identical to the current process that you are doing now. The TrustLine applicant will receive the forms from a designated agency, their county welfare department, the alternative payment program, or the resource and referral agencies. The package of documents will consist of the TrustLine registry application, the TLR1, the criminal record statement, which is the TLR 508, and the request for live scan service for subsidized TrustLine registrants, the TLR 9163. The applicant will take the forms to an authorized live scan vendor and have their fingerprints taken. These forms will ultimately need to be returned to the designated agency so that the application information can be entered using the CDSS TrustLine web app, and then the documents are forwarded to the network and CDSS. The fingerprints will then be transmitted to the Department of Justice for processing, and the responses will be transmitted to CDSS to process the background check for each of the applicants. CDSS will then electronically transmit the results of the background checks to the Resource and Referral Network, who will notify the designated agencies of the results along with the applicant. The next screen is option 2. This option is essentially the same as option 1, with the difference being that the counties have the option to enter into an agreement with an authorized live scan vendor who is willing to log onto the CDSS TWA application to enter the information in place of the designated agency. This is essentially the same as option 1, with the only difference being who is entering the application information. The third option is that the county welfare departments, the resource and referral agencies, and the alternative payment programs will always have the ability to manually forward the applications up to the Caregiver Background Check Bureau at CDSS for manual input. That has been and will continue to be an option as far as entry of the applications. Each user will have a single point of contact, or SPOC, who will act as a site administrator and will give you access to the application and can answer questions about Identity Portal and use of the TrustLine web app, also known as TWA. The California Child Care Resource and Referral Network is the single point of contact for all R&R and AP programs. When you are first set up by your SPOC, you will receive an email informing you that a new account has been created. The email includes your username, which is your email address, and a temporary password. The email includes new user account. If you have not received the temporary password, please contact your site administrator. To begin the activation of your account, click on the underlined word "Here" found at the sentence ending "Click Here." From within Identity Portal, your account is not ready to use until you activate your account by creating a personal password. When you receive this screen, click on the or below the key for Change My Temporary TLRWA Password to create your personal password. First, read the password rules. Determine what password you want to use that follows the rules. You should enter the temporary password that you received in the new user account email into the box named Temp Password. If desired, you can use the copy and paste function to copy the temporary password. Enter your new password, which you choose in both the New Password and Verify Password boxes. Your password change saves after clicking Change Password. Next, the Identity Portal screen redisplays and the color has changed from red to green. Click the Go to TLRWA button to go to the TrustLine web application. You should be at the TrustLine web application welcome screen. From here, you may want to save the website as a favorite for regular logins. To log in, choose the first link named "Click here to log into TrustLine web app." You should now be at the TrustLine web app login screen. Going through the identity portal is not required again until you need to change your password. If you need or want to, you can begin this process by selecting the "Forgot Your Password, Account Locked, Need a New Password" link at the bottom of this page. At that time, you will go through a similar process to create a new password. The next portion of the webinar is about the entry of TrustLine applications after you have activated your account. The first screen is the welcome page, which includes 3 links. Starting at the bottom, you can link to the current user manual for TWA, which opens in a new window and can be printed. You can use the functions to make it smaller or larger and go to additional pages. You can use the print options either at the top of the screen or here. We strongly recommend that prior to entering applications that you read the manual. You can close it by clicking out of the box, clicking the X. Also, the welcome page links to the frequently asked questions, or FAQs. These have been developed from prior webinars. Please print and read them prior to entering applications or review them if you have questions. And the same choices here. The top link takes you to the page to log in to TWA. Choose the "Click here to log into TrustLine web app." From this screen, you log in with your username, which is your email address. Enter your password, which you were able to choose when you activated your account, then click Login. It may ask you if you want to store your password for this site. You'll need to consult your internal security or adhere to the rules that you have received from your office. There is an option to choose "Not for this site." This shows that we're waiting for a response. This is a test site. There are FAQs available, the same FAQs on every screen, so if you do run into questions. First, I want to cover some basic rules for navigation and what not to do. Let me put in the name. And I'm going to hit Next. If you want to or need to go back to a prior screen, do not use the browser arrow buttons, those at the top of the screen. You want to use the Next and Previous buttons at the bottom of the screen. Also, go forward. If you're in a drop-down box, you do not want to hit the backspace key. It could take you to an expired screen or a prior screen and clear your information. So you want to use the previous buttons. Okay, the first screen has 2 fields which are required. The headings are shown in red to let you know which fields are required. I'm going to choose Next with only the last name entered to show you what happens. So if any data is incorrect, it will display what is incorrect in red above the data entry section and show a red exclamation point next to the line in question. So for the field 1, we want to enter a last name and a first name. Entry of a middle name is optional, but it should be entered on applications as the name should match the driver's license or ID the applicant shows when they are fingerprinted. If the person has used other names, enter them under number 2, aka. Entries can be made for first name, last name, and middle initial. If they have another aka, you can click the Add button to add another line for aka names, up to 4 AKAs. Give her add another name. When complete with your entry, select the Next button at the bottom of the screen. The data is validated, and this time, since it passes validation, Screen 2 appears with Personal Information as the heading. Okay, under number 3, Residence Address, enter the street address where the applicant lives. There's a box for apartment number if needed. You can use some special characters, such as the # for an apartment number, or the / located either on the 10 keypad or next to the period, if you have a 1/2 address. Type the city name and do not abbreviate. If the applicant lives in California, that is pre-selected. If the applicant lives somewhere other than California, select the state from the drop-down box. You can tab from field to field. And California is pre-selected. You can select the drop-down box. If you hit S, like I did, it'll jump you right down to the first S choice. If the mailing address is the same as the residence address, you can click the checkbox to have it copy the address down for you. Otherwise, enter the full mailing address. Under number 5, enter the date of birth. Use the 2-digit month, the 2-digit day, and a 4-digit year, which includes the century. I'm going to enter it incorrectly to show you the validation of a field. When I tab or click over to the next field, you may notice the exclamation point is verifying the data of that prior field. If that is not corrected, when you select the next at the bottom of the screen, it would give you a red warning at the top. So let me go ahead and fix that now. And when I tab over to sex, it's taken away the red exclamation point. By the way, I'm only entering the numbers, it is adding the slashes. Select the sex from the drop-down box, or you can type the letter F or M to have it select those. Continue to select the height, enter the weight, select the eye color, and the hair color. Under 6A, the Social Security number is a 9-digit field. Although this field is optional, providing this information may make the background check process faster. (6B) is a required field. You must enter either a driver's license or state ID number, or an alien registration or out-of-state ID. You must also select a state from the drop-down box. If you have a number that is longer than the 8 characters that are allowed, enter the first 8 only, which should provide enough information to process the background check. This field has not been lengthened at this time, as it affects a number of interfaces with other systems. Select the state. You want to enter a 10-digit day and evening telephone number as you have them. When complete with your entry, you would select the Next button at the bottom. The data will be validated. If any data were incorrect, it would show in red, display what is incorrect. Assuming there were no errors, selecting the Next button at the bottom of the screen will display screen 3 with a title of Transfer Process. For item 8, the first question asks if the applicant is currently licensed or working in a facility licensed by the California Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing, or have they worked in a licensed facility within the last 3 years. You must answer by selecting either yes or no. If the applicant were working and was able to transfer their clearance, this would allow them to skip being re-fingerprinted, and you would select yes to both questions. Then you would enter either their facility ID or preferably their 10-digit PER ID. The PER ID is the individual's personal ID issued to them when they first become associated to or working in a community care licensed facility after the background check has been completed. For item 9, if you're entering this field, the application signed date, use the 2-digit month, the 4-digit day, the 2-digit day, and the 4-digit year. For item 11, enter the agency name, street address, agency number, agency city, agency state, 2 characters, and the agency zip code. Select the next at the bottom of the screen when you're complete, and screen 4 with the title of TrustLine information appears. Okay. On this screen, you must enter only one county and one program in either Section 12 or Section 13. This will depend on the type of program or payment program that you are using. You must enter a resource and referral name, program name, and the R&R code in Section 13. I will demonstrate first an applicant being paid to provide child care by a county welfare department program. Choose county from the drop-down box in Section 12. And now a couple things have changed. The county in box 13 is now not required, and 2 new fields in box 12 are required. So you need to choose a program and enter at least one case number. I'm going to choose stage 1. Enter additional county fields as required. Where's your button? Same rules on the 10-digit phone number and the date signed. The phone number is 10 digits and the 8-digit date. On all entries, we still need to put an R&R program name and an R&R code. The bottom section is named Transaction Completed By. Enter the appropriate fields based on a completed live scan transaction. So after they've been fingerprinted. The LSID, the live scan ID code, you should be able to read, and the 10-digit automated transaction identifier. Please verify all fields before selecting the Finish button. After you select the Finish button, no changes may be made. You may use the previous and next fields to review your entries. When you're satisfied with your entries, select the Finish button at the bottom. The data is validated and the Submission Successful screen appears. If we would like to print a copy of what you entered, select the Print Application button. A new tab will open with your completed application to print. You are not required to print this application if you are sending a signed copy of the TLR1. However, this printed application is also acceptable as long as it is signed and dated. You may use the printer icon on your browser near the top line. Also at the top, you can use File and Print. You can use Control P, where you can right-click and choose the print option or print preview options there. After you successfully print your application, you can close the new tab that was opened. You'll be back at this screen and you can choose to start a new application to input another application. If you're finished, you can choose Log Out. I will go back and enter a second application to show the transfer option and Box 13 options for child care referral and alternative payment programs. Driver's license is required. And the state is required. If they are licensed or working in and would like to transfer their clearance, you select yes on the first box. If you select yes, and you want to transfer their criminal history, they could skip being fingerprinted. If you select yes to this, you need to enter either the facility ID or preferably the 10-digit PER ID. This application is transferring their clearance, so I will select yes and enter their PER ID. The PER ID is the individual's personal ID issued to them when they first become associated to or working in a community care licensed facility after the background check has been completed. Okay, so this time I'm going to use box 13 for the child care and referral or alternative payment programs. You want to first choose one of the 5 payment programs, and then you're going to select the county. Notice that the county now in box 12 is not required, and the payment program is required in box 13. And now we have a new field, the APP code, which is required. You only select one county and one program in either box 12 or box 13. So I'm going to enter the R&R program name. And the R&R code. All right, sorry. Now I'll enter the alternative payment program name. And the APP code. If you have case numbers, you would go ahead and enter those here. And you would continue to enter your county worker name if you have that. In the bottom section, name transaction completed by, in this case, is not required as they are transferring their clearance. When you're satisfied with your entry, select the Finish button at the bottom. The data is validated and the Submission Successful screen appears. After printing, if you want to print this, if this is your last application, you may choose the Log Out option. And that will take you back to this first screen. I want to thank you, and if you have questions, please contact your SPOC. Thank you.